Just Rabbi Galler, on behalf of the shuls and many family members, friends of Adira, and Anne, and Mark, and Aaron, Dahlia, and Jeremy, and Adira's grandparents, Rabbi Lou and Hermine Diamond, and Ed and Lynn Koffsky, on behalf of really Jews across the world who learn about the unbelievable, tragic death of Adira, taken from us without any warning, in a terrible, terrible accident. It's not possible to express the words that we all feel right now for precious Adira, and for the Koffsky family, the profound grief that we are all experiencing. Before I call upon a few individuals to recite the Tehillim, I wanted to say to the entire Mishpacha and to our dear friends Mark and Ann, we are so very sorry. We are all so sorry for this awful tragedy. We loved Adira. We love your family. She was so special. She grew up in our shul, in our community, and we watched her mature into an incredibly thoughtful, creative, and giving young woman. And we wish there was something, anything that we could do to alleviate the pain that you are all experiencing. There are more than 1,000 families in West Hempstead. Your family and friends and neighbors who are hoping they can do something,
join the meeting,
to ease the pain, provide some comfort for you. And unfortunately, we know there's very little that we can do. And so our entire community mourns the loss of your beloved daughter, sister, granddaughter, niece, Adira Shoshana, Bas, Moshe Yitzchak, and Chaya Menucha. At this time, we're going to begin the service with the recitation of a few chapters of Tehillim. First, I'd like to call upon Rabbi Galler, the Marda Asra, to recite a kapitel.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai miyagur balecha misha arkachecha, Olech tamim ufal tzedek, yoper emes bilgavav, Lo ragal al lishono, Lo asel re'ora, V'cherpa lo nasat krava. Nivzeh beinav nima, Vesirana yechaveh, Nishbal harav lo yamri, Aspal nasad beneshe, V'shochad anaki lo lakach, Hosei lo yimod liolam.
Second chapter, we invite Adira's high school principal, the head of school of Central, and friend of the family, Bracha Rutner.
Malod, Sinai Alarim Ein Yavo Ezri. Ezri mi Madonai Oseshamayim Va'aretz. Ayitin Amot Rablacha, Ayanu Shomracha. Hine lo Yanu lo Yishan Shomer Yisrael. Adonai Shomracha, Adonai Tzacha Yad Yaminacha. Yomam Hashemesh Le'akaka, V'yareach V'alayla. Adonai Yishmarcha Mikol Ra Yishmar Nafshacha. Adonai Yishmar Titcha V'lecha Yadha Yad Olam.
They're going to be think 7 speakers to pay tribute to Adira. We'll begin with Ann and Mark, followed by Aaron and Jeremy. Rabbi Galler will be reading speech from head of Adira's seminary in Eretz Yisrael, Julie Goldstein, Dr. Julie Goldstein, followed by Dr. Rona Novick, family friend who was very close with Adira, and followed by closing remarks by myself. Ann?
I almost chose to not speak today. Besides being an emotionally ridiculous task, the idea of trying to capture who Adira was, or what she meant to me, and her friends, and our family, it's like trying to describe the sun. Or maybe because it's Adira, it's like trying to describe a rose.
Join the meeting.
You can try and never accomplish the task because it's impossible. And as a writer person, it's just too daunting. But I remember that at one of Rabbi Calamer's, I see, thank you. One of his famous question and answer sessions, which were so remarkable. Someone asked him, why does one go to a Rav and ask them to pray on your behalf? Can't you just daven yourself? Why do you need an intermediary of any kind? And he answered that sometimes one gets to a place where it's just too hard. And you just can't daven anymore. It's beyond your capacity. I never had the opportunity to daven for Adira to be healed. Is that too bad? And now it's beyond my capacity to really eulogize her. So instead, I'm turning to our rabbis who have done so much to make today happen, because I did nothing to make today happen. I don't know how everybody came and did everything. It's remarkable. And it's been very comforting for everyone to come and support us. But I'm turning to our rabbis. I'm turning to everybody here because I don't have the capacity. And I thank you, everyone who has sent me notes, and everyone who has told a sliver of Adira's story and who she was to us, because every text and every message and every story and every hug that we've received from all of you has been like one ray of her sunshine and one petal of her rose, one line of her story. People keep saying that recurring motif is that there are no words. And I know that's why I couldn't write this. I can't find the words. But if we all come together and try to say just one word about Adira, one small story, or one time that she smiled, or rolled her eyes, or gave you a patented Adira hug. She was very good at those. I think every message you've told about her, it means so much. I think that the only way we're all going to get through this is together. And the only way that me and my family are going to get together is with you together. And together, maybe we'll be able to write her hesped and her legacy and describe the rose that was Adira Rose Shoshana Koffsky. Thank you.
I can't begin to capture Adira's life in a few paragraphs. So I'm just going to say a few random thoughts I jotted down on the plane on the way back from Israel yesterday, whatever it was. So everyone knows Adira was our third child. Born in 2004 after having two
Join the meeting.
boys, Aaron and Jeremy, who sit here as young men today. Adira was our only girl. I soon learned that being a father to a girl is different than my boys. Perhaps parenting Adira was different. Over the years, parenting morphs into different roles in corporate speak. I like to think of it as when the kids are young, you're president and chief executive officer. As they grow into adolescence, the role changes and you have sales and marketing. For my boys who are in their 20s and starting their own lives, one of whom's married to Aaron, married to beautiful Dahlia. I guess I'm just now the senior advisor. With Adira, the shift from CEO to head of sales and marketing came rather early. I'm not in the speech, but we saw just before we came here. There's a video that my sister-in-law found, and those of you in West Hempstead will really appreciate this. She went to Hunky's, Alav Shalom in West Hempstead for a birthday party, and Richie, who is, a personality, said, okay, we're all going to now make pizza. The Adira, all of 5 years, it says, I don't want to make pizza. So her shift to sales and marketing was earlier than most, and earlier than my boys, I think. Her sense of self, her poise, and as her moxie meant that she would not just take my word for something and had to satisfy her worldview, her sense of justice and acceptance. I spoke at Adira's bat mitzvah in 2016. And I remember what I said then. I said, Adira doesn't jibber jabber. She's quiet and she speaks when she thinks something is important. And she wasn't like the other girls. She did not jibber jabber. There's no other word for it, as teenage girls are wont to do. But as she graduated Hank Elementary, went to Shalhevet, and then graduated Central. Thank you, Bracha, for your beautiful Tehillim. Then she went to Amodim in Yerushalayim. I saw Adira's interest grow and blossom. She was talking more. She was a fierce defender of what she believed was right and was wise beyond her years. Whether it's discussion of Harry Potter, fan fiction, fantasy novels, her stories about a vampire Hatzalah volunteer. Yes, that's a real thing. It's a real thing. Adira was full of life. We would watch and laugh at silly videos about Critical Role, defective spaceship adventures, and casino cheats who got caught. We went to hockey games and movies together, and I had in my calendar, there's a game for Pesach that I was going to take her to. We hugged on Friday night and talked long into the night about serious contemporary issues affecting society in general and the challenges facing Adira's generation in particular, frankly, challenges, and I refer to the educators in the room, challenges that someone who grew up in the 1980s and early 90s cannot even begin to imagine. Pressures that younger people are under today that I never had. But Adira handled it, and she thrived. I was so privileged to visit Adira twice in Israel over the past few months. My first visit was unusual. It was just me. I was on a business trip in England, and I just stopped by for Shabbos. The two of us spent Shabbos afternoon on a beautiful Mirpesset in Yerushalayim, talking about the future, what she was going to do at Stern College, what she would major in, would she make a career, how would she make money, find life and love. I will cherish that forever. Last week in our pre-Shabbos call, not less than a week ago, Adira told us she wanted to major in history and at Stern College. She was worried about how she would support herself, and we decided working at a museum might be a way to accomplish her goals. Fortunately, in our family, we have someone who is very adept at museum education. So thank you, Liz. That was conversation. And unfortunately, she's not going to. When we were in Israel yesterday to pick up Adira, bring her home, we met Adira's apartment mates. They made a pre-shiva call to us at the airport in the Beis Medrash in Ben Gurion. They told us stories of how Adira was always helpful, got up early to make everyone pancakes. She did love to bake. Was getting pretty good at it, and tried best to join other girls' dance moves with mixed success. Not the best dancer, my daughter. That's the family. Anyway, she's my dear wife, Ann. To my son and daughter-in-law, Aaron and Talia, and to my son, Jeremy, my parents-in-law, our siblings, and our cousins. I can only say our family has suffered a catastrophic loss. And I love you all. We are going to need each other in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. To my friends, to my rabbis, my friends, and my community, I thank you for your love and your support, which has only begun, and I know will continue. We will need it in the coming weeks and months to begin to process this tragedy. Adira, your 18 and a half years of life were far, far too short. We leave behind a legacy of love we can only hope to build on. We will miss you more than words can describe. Thank you.
Sometime around high school, Adira began to write stories. And my brother Aaron and I would ask her about them, but she wouldn't tell us a lot. A decade of slight mocking banter will do that. But slowly over time, I got to be familiar with her creativity, and it was amazing. She thought of quests and dragons and demons, witches, things that didn't provoke my creativity at all. Her imagination stretched far beyond her own life experience. She read ferociously. You could be having a conversation with her in the car, like driving somewhere, only to find that she was on her phone, engrossed in some fan fiction online. And to her, the magic in life did not stop and end with our drab realities. She envisioned a different one, full of fantasy and life intertwined together with human emotion. And while she kept her brothers in the dark about all the wonderful stories scrolling through her mind, she told them to her friends online and in person. She was the dungeon master of the Dungeons and Dragons game her friends would play. And according to Wikipedia, Dungeon Master is the game organizer, participant in charge of creating the details and challenges of a given adventure while maintaining a realistic continuity of events. Adira was not just the dungeon master of the game, she was the dungeon master of her short life. She had a shirt she loved that said, "Because I'm the DM, the dungeon master, that's why." And as the DM, she created quests for herself with things that I didn't find challenging. Speaking publicly or making new friends, trying new things in general gave her a lot of anxiety. But in the last few years of her life, all our family observed prolific growth out of her. The demons that would make her feel small were fought off by a phoenix within her, blazing with life and boldness that was beginning to come out. Of course, if Adira were here, she would wonder the continuity of the phoenix metaphor, where the phoenix could live, what the name of the town that housed it could be called. It was how her brain worked. She was brave and strong, incredibly self-assured for her age. I no longer expected her to fail any quests or struggle to find her footing. I knew she would conquer whatever she wanted. The hard part was getting her to want things. But when she did, she would accomplish it. There are so many creative stories that were left in her mind, and I'm sure she could have published a novel or started a famous series. And she was also exceptionally loving. When I last saw her in December with my family, we hugged when I arrived and when I left. And I saw her having dinner with her friends, and she was thriving like I'd never seen her. She was honest. I texted her, probably the last person in our family to speak. I said, "How are you doing?" in class that she was in before. And she said, "Good, I'm on my phone when I should be paying attention in class." And I sent her a bunch of emojis, and she sent a thumbs up, and then I sent a bunch of emojis, and she read it. So, but I'm so proud of what me, my brother Aaron, my parents were able to do in 18 years to foster such a beautiful and loving person and make her believe in herself. The dreams I used to have, we all used to have, her future days will never come to fruition. I don't really know how to contend with that. But I think some answer can be found in one of her writings, the only one that I knew existed. And it was called Morning Routine. It's published in the Central newspaper last year. It's about a girl who lives on a farm and takes care of a dragon and a sphinx. In the story, the protagonist's name is Joanna. Near the end of the story, which I read, it was hang up in the room. The girl asks about like the mundanity of her life to Sphinx. It says, "Hey Sphinx, will my life ever be exciting?" The Sphinx responds that this is in her writing. Exciting is a relative term, means different things to different people. And then that motif comes back at the end of the story, where the Sphinx tells the girl that her dragon eggs are ready to, she needs to go prepare for that. And Adira's last line was, "The Sphinx watched her go the girl go with a knowing look on her face. Her life is already exciting. You just don't see. You know, for someone as young as she was to write something with such profound themes about humanity was remarkable. But I think the story that Adira was saying is that even in a world of dragons and mysticism, that protagonist didn't see how special everything around her was. She still longed for more. And as we long for more, I think there's some comfort in her life was complete already, in a sense. And she could have done so much, been such an amazing person, but it was complete with love and wonder and life. And she conjured up magical metaphors to help herself understand everything. And she touched so many hearts in her short time here. She was strong, funny, kind, and creative. She developed a sense of bravery and conquered anything she wanted to do. For 18 years meant the world to me and my family. And I will always cherish the action figures, stories I told her as a kid, playing Mario Kart or vacations or time we spent together. And for all of you here, you can do anything loving to honor her, to make all she did all the more meaningful. Thank you.
Adira was so brilliant. We had somewhat of a tradition on our parents' 50th birthday. The three of us would write letters to mommy and daddy about what they mean to us and how much we love them. And they're currently hung up in both offices at home. And in both of the letters, Adira, toward the beginning, says there's something about there's no words to describe how much I love you. And Adira, I know that's how we all feel about you. You are an absolute star. And I don't think anyone will ever really be able to explain why. You were quiet, but you had such presence. You didn't talk much, but you had so much to say. You were cynical. You were kind-hearted. You were wonderfully yourself, and you embraced it.
Judy Siegel.
Joined the meeting.
I loved being your older brother. And as much as I taught you things and feel like I was here to guide you, you taught me so much too. I got to see you grow up, and I am so proud of you. You would write some different stories, of which I read very little by her choice. But the bits I did read were complete masterpieces about fantasy lands and adventure. The room is full of books that are organized and sorted and kept very clean. She was a scholar in this niche and knew all the different types, like the difference between an elf and a druid and what that meant, or the difference between Greeks and Roman gods and what they were called and what it meant, and was then able to take all those metaphors and bring them to life in her stories. Adira loved adventure. And I think that was expressed in her writing. 2 reasons. First, because life is a crazy adventure, and she wanted to express that. And also that life could be boring, and she wanted to create something more exciting. I think she was always balancing these in conflict and always working together. If Adira could be here right now, I know she'd hate it. And I know she wouldn't know what to say. But I think if she could say something, she would say that she loves everyone too, and that everyone should be nice to each other. And Adira, I know you have to go now. I'll miss you so much. I have my adventure to complete, and I'll see you soon. I love you.
I'm going to read thoughts from Dr. Julie Goldstein, the head of Amudim, where Adira was studying for the year, where she was truly thriving. She writes, Adira, I don't know how to encapsulate any of my thoughts or feelings into words right now. So I'm just going to share an initial reflection, and there will be so much more to say as time goes on. In Perek Chesed Tehillim, you open with the pasuk, Hashem Adonenu Ma'adir Shimcha B'chal Haaretz Asher Tnahodcha Hashemayim. Hashem, your name is Adir, majestic in all of the earth. But please keep your splendor in the heavens. According to the ways Chazal understand this pasuk, it was the angels who spoke these words and were making a case to Hashem that the Torah should not be given to human beings. The Torah belongs in the supernatural, celestial heavenly realms, and not down on earth. According to the Gemara Masechet Shabbos, Moshe Rabbeinu went up to heaven and made an argument with the angels. And he said, angels, you didn't go to Mitzrayim and you didn't leave Mitzrayim. You don't have any kind of human experience that relates to the words of Torah. And the closing pasuk of Perek Chesed restates, Hashem Adonenu Ma'adir Shimcha B'chal Haaretz, without reference to the God keeping the Torah in Shemayim. The way Chazal understand this pasuk is that the angels who initially argued to keep the Torah in the heavenly realm ultimately conceded to Moshe Rabbeinu's arguments. The Torah really belongs on earth.
Join the meeting.
The Torah is not just an abstraction. Our relationship with God is not just elusive, not just a concept, but something that is expressed in the written word. The Torah is what gives expression to human longing and human desires and to human beings' relationship with God. Ma'adir Shimcha B'chal Haaretz, it belongs here. And it's through the written word in the earthly realm that human being finds expression of the totality of his or her relationship with God. Our Adira was an internally oriented person. She had so many thoughts about herself, the world as it is, and the world as it ought to be. Even her love of fantasy fiction, which could ostensibly be seen as Adira diving into the world as it never would be, was in truth a reflection of her connection to the world, because as she, along with her best friend in Amudim, expressed to me, the world of fantasy is just an extreme version of the world as it is. She could understand something about the human condition, the human mind, relationships, values, social structure, by peering into the world that exaggerated it. Adira's deep connection to things that seemingly belong to some other world was actually a connection to the world itself in which she lived. Adira strongly subscribed to her own vision of the world and to her convictions of the ideal world. And she was not afraid to voice her thoughts honestly, almost to a fault. She was entirely open and sincere, never confrontational or trying to draw attention to herself. Always soft-spoken and earnest as she conveyed to those around her how she saw things and why she saw them as she did. So while she was deeply interiorly focused and comfortable with her conclusions and opinions, she never expected other people to see the world the same way that she did, and never imposed it on anybody else. In fact, with full humility and openness to learning and rethinking, she actually exhibited a retreative quality, drawing away from confrontation while always keeping her ear open and finger on the pulse of all the ideas around her. But if in these settings, Adira didn't always forcefully put her forward her ideas, the place where she was able to give them expression was in her amazing writing, and everyone knew that she dreamed of being a published author one day, something I'm sure she got from her mother. Adira poured her thoughts onto the page in prose and poetry, personal essays. Her writing is brilliant and creative, heartfelt, dry, and hilarious, as in the case of her most recent work, humorously titled Vampire Hatzalah, which features a Jewish vampire named Chaim, because, as Adira put it, I like irony. In one of the essays she wrote during her year at Amudim, she describes the writing process as a way of giving voice to her relationship with God. She wrote, "My pen is my sitter, and my stories are my daven." Through her writing, she was taking things that were going on inside herself, her thoughts and feelings, emotions, analysis, questions, and struggles, bring them into the world. As Adira put it later in the very same essay, where she addresses God directly. My thanks for this gift, the ability to show the world what I see and feel. None of it mentions you by name, you with a capital Y. But it doesn't have to. You are already there. Pen and paper, text on scraps. It's a manifestation of the creativity of mankind, the mankind that I'm a part of, the mankind that you, capital Y, created. As Moshe Rabbeinu argued to the angels, Ma'adir Shemukha B'chal ha'aretz. All of those ideas and feelings, and perhaps originate in some other realm, can be brought into the world through written words. On a personal level, Adira and I had a special bond. From the moment I first met her at the Israel Fair at Stern College, I had no doubt that Amudim was the right midrashah for her. And I know that she agreed. Of course, as a person who was more shy and internal, being thrown into a new country, apartment, school, peer group, so far away from her family, was hard for her. In one particular difficult moment, she said to me, "I just want a hug from my mother." But over the last few months, Adira found her footing and made friends, gained additional confidence, learned and internalized ideas that intrigued her, thought deeply about herself, what she wanted out of life, and perhaps most importantly, experienced a profound sense of joy and contentment. In one of our recent conversations about the upcoming trip to Poland, Adira told me that her goal in attending the trip was to try to find a way of tapping into the emotional part of her. And in her own words, she felt she was desensitized to and learn how to flow with unexpected challenges in life in a way she felt she hadn't been able to do so until now. Adira, this goal that you set for yourself of learning to deal with unexpected challenges is one that we now have to learn. And we have to learn it in the most terrible way. A way that we never expected or wanted. And I don't know how we, your teachers, and especially your friends, are going to be able to flow with it. So many things unsaid, deep friendships that were suddenly cut too short. and so many bonds that were just beginning to form. And will never know further growth. A good friend who said, I don't know who is going to be a bridesmaid in the wedding. We are all just reeling and hurting from this. For a group of people who like you regularly assess and analyze and explain, we're at a complete loss. It's simply incomprehensible, unfathomable to us. Adira, you thought deeply about and put into words your understanding of the human condition and your place within it. But at this point, no one of us can find the right words to explain any of this. All we've done for the last few days is reminisce about things you said and you did, and read through what you wrote, which is what you leave behind for your friends and your family. We have writings and the words that give voice. How you envision the world, who you were, and who you thought you could be. And we know how much you wanted to continue using those avenues to make your impact, your mark on this world. But perhaps in this case, we have to turn back to the first pasuk. Hashem Adoninu, Ma'adir Shimcha, B'chal Haaretz, Asher T'nahudcha Al Hashemayim. Adira, perhaps in this case, Moshe Rabbeinu lost his fight with the angels, and Hashem decided the rest has to be written in the heavenly realm.
Reshut HaRabbeim, and I'm honored to be asked to share some thoughts of Adira. Adira's mom, Anne, often referred to Adira as a not in the box person. And in fact, Adira was unique in many wonderful ways. Friends saw Adira as kind and generous. Adira did not need to be part of a crowd or to increase the quantity of her friendships. She focused instead on quality. She spoke about her friends from childhood as friends for life. And she made a powerful impact on her close friends during this year in Israel. As you heard, her roommate, Sarah, told Adira's parents that she knew Adira would be maid of honor at a wedding. She doesn't have the groom yet, but she knew that that was Adira's job. And since it can happen, she plans on naming her first child in her honor. Teachers saw Adira as smart, eloquent, a big idea learner. Adira was as interested in questions as she was in answers. She loved language, the meanings and the power of words. She was, as we've heard, a voracious reader of fantasy and sci-fi, interested in the plots, but really intrigued by how, in those genres, characters could be out of the box, could go beyond stereotypes, could challenge assumptions. She would probably hate it if I quoted a pasuk to describe her or her life, but she'd be thrilled if I was versed enough in the fan fiction genre to compare her to a character on a personal quest through a novel universe. And that is exactly how I saw Adira. She was on a quest, and she was happy to be. She was so highly committed to her own growth, to learning who she was, and to stretching to be who she could be. Adira was capable of amazing insights. She could understand and articulate why some things were easy for her and others more challenging. But she didn't stop there. She would look for the mantra or the strategy that would move her forward, and she'd record it, write the words of wisdom or her goals on a Post-it note and put it over her bed. And she would use those words and strategies to challenge herself, to keep growing. Adira knew that she wasn't always the most motivated person. especially if it was for some activity that she did not enjoy. But when she wanted to do something, she would face any challenge to do it. She was so looking forward to the seminary trip to Poland at the end of this month. She knew how challenging it would be physically and especially emotionally triggering. But the reason she wanted to go says so much about who Adira was. She felt she'd become desensitized to our history, to the Holocaust, and to its trauma. It had stopped moving her. She wanted to recharge that sensitivity. She wanted to connect to pain that was part of her culture and history. An extraordinary decision from an extraordinary young woman. Adira was also uncommonly grateful for a young person. She did not take her blessings for granted. She did not long for what others have. She spoke often of how fortunate she felt for her family and especially for who her parents are. She was able to be who she was and do what she did because she felt loved and understood by her wonderful parents. Adira, it was an honor to have known you. It's so sad to lose you. May your memory serve for a blessing.
Time for Nechama hasn't arrived. Shiva hasn't begun. Nevertheless, I was hoping to share a few thoughts from my perceptions of Adira that hopefully may help him just a little bit. I was looking at the parsha at the beginning of this week's parsha and looking for Adira. I think I found her. The Medrash makes a surprising statement in the name of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Lo nitna haTorah lidrosh, ella la'ochlei haman. The Torah was given to be expounded only to those who ate the man the Jewish people left Mitzrayim. At first glance, it appears that Rav Shimon is restricting the privilege and ability to learn Torah to the Dor HaMidbar. Only those who left Mitzrayim will have to study Lidrosh. That can't be Rav Shimon's intent. We all learn Torah. Torah was given to all of us. We don't have man. So what did Rav Shimon intend to convey by telling us that the Torah was only given Lidrosh? I found Adira in the word Lidrosh. Daled Reish, Adira Shoshana. The Al Yehuda says the answer to the question, why was the Torah only given Lidrosh, the Ochlei Haman? He says, because it doesn't mean that only people who eat man can learn Torah, but rather, more specifically, the ability to be Doresh Torah, which means not just to absorb its teachings, but to analyze them, to be creative, to ask questions, to arrive at new insight and novel ideas. For that, you have to be one of the Ochlei Haman. To have the ability to be Doresh, that only occurs with people who are eating the man. They resemble the generation of the wilderness. If you are provided with man, so then your sustenance is stable, it's available, it's secure, you're at ease. And because of that feeling of security, it allows you to be free of anxiety and pressure and be Doresh, be creative, free to be yourself, comfortable asking when you don't know something. It allows you to develop your potential in the greatest way possible. This morning, we're gathering to pay our respect to Adira Shoshana. And there are many positive characteristics that Adira Koffsky possessed. As you heard this morning, a glimpse who she was. She was modest and caring and sincere and loving and intelligent, among others. One nakuda that several people spoke about this morning on the internet as well was that Adira was a free spirit. Although she could be shy, Adira had her own unique and thoughtful voice. She was quite principled. Person should do what they believe is right. And she was on a steady progression of finding herself, growing in her maturity, and she had grown immeasurably over the last few years. It could take time for you to get to know her, but she had so many thoughtful, even brilliant ideas percolating as she was turning from a teen into a young woman. She was shy but independent. How many teenagers are willing to go to camp not knowing a single person? And the same thing occurred this year, her seminary year in Israel. She didn't know anybody who was going to Avdim, but she was comfortable with herself, with quiet confidence. Underneath her often reserved exterior, there was flowering creativity and sensitivity and energy and brilliance. She had an incredible writing talent with many diverse interests, especially fantasy, so many spectacular stories and essays. Her college essay was about the influence of fantasy on life, which she wrote without any assistance from her accomplished parents, because Adira had the gift of being able to darshan, to be creative and think differently and out of the box. And she attended to Stern next year, studied history and creative writing. Her teachers described her as a model student, not necessarily because she received the hundreds on every exam, which may be the case, I don't know, but because she was dorish. She asked questions, hard questions. She was engaged and true to herself. I'd like to read to you a portion from a beautiful piece that Rabbi Schneeweiss, Adira's rabbi, when she attended Shalhevet, wrote about her. This is from Rabbi Schneeweiss. Adira had a strong moral compass, never hesitated to speak up for her beliefs and to defend those whom she felt were being mistreated. She set aside personal issues to make peace with classmates. She went out of her way to befriend new students, not because she was a social butterfly, but out of a strong sense of identification with the other and a desire to bring those who were marginalized into the fold. She took ownership of deficiencies and dedicated herself to making improvements. All of this reflects, in my view, Adira's ability to be Dorish Torah and Torah life, to ask, to think, to impact others in her own way. Where did the ability to darshan come from? The answer, says Rabbi Shimon, is that drisha only emerges when a person feels confident and safe. Only the Ochlei Haman, those who are provided with security every day on a daily basis, have that power. And that is precisely what Adira experienced at home. Adira felt comfortable and proud to be her unique self, and she was absolutely one of a kind because she felt completely loved and protected in the warm and loving home that Anne and Mark and Aaron and Jeremy provided for her. My fondest memories of Adira are seeing the five of you interact at the Shabbos table, such mutual respect and caring for each other. Remembering Adira and Aaron and Dahlia's wedding, she was beaming with pride. So happy for you. And I could see Jeremy and Aaron next to her, looking after her in a protective and loving way. There was a beautiful reciprocal love that existed between Adira family, her parents, her brothers. It's not always easy for children and parents to connect, but Adira experienced only positive energy in her home. So many conversations with Ann and Mark involved the pride and joy that Adira gave to them. And Adira completely adored her parents and brothers and grandparents, each of whom helped her become the Bas Torah that she became and that we have lost. The past 2 days have been a nightmare for the family and beyond. But without mentioning names, thank you to so many people who have been helping family deal with this horrific event. As Mark said, they need and will continue to need all of your assistance and care. A special thank you to the Amudim staff and young women for the friendship and support that you gave to Adira during her centenary year. And our Yasher Koach to many, many people from this side of the world and the other side of the world who helped to coordinate the many steps that were needed to have this funeral occur this morning with dignity. And let me just conclude with a personal note, a word not to my congregants, it's not Rabbi Schwab, but to my very close friends from Tamar and me. We love you. Somehow, with the help of many, many people, your family and friends who admire and care about you, you will get through this. We are all here for you and thinking and davening for the two of you and Jeremy and Aaron and Dahlia, your parents, and the extended family. You were and are amazing people and parents who truly brought out the best in your beautiful daughter, Adira Shoshana. May the memory of Adira's life and Midas Tovos serve to inspire all of us to Hey Nishmasat Surah B'Torah Chaim. May her soul be bound in the bonds of eternal life. I'm going to conclude with two Pitluch of Tehillim. I want to call upon Rabbi Elliot Hecht, the dearest principal in Hebrew Academy of Nassau County, for a second.
Mizmor David, Adonai Roi Lo Achsar, Beno Desha Yarbiteni, Almei Menuchot Yinahaleni. Nafshi Yishobev, Ramteni B'Madlei Tzedek L'man Shemo. Gam ki elach gates al mavet lo irara ki ata yimadi. Shiftecha u'mishantecha hema yinachamuni. Taroch ufanai shulchan neged sorai. Tishanta v'Hashem en roshi kozi revaya. Afto v'chesed yirtefuni kol yimei chayai. V'shavti v'veis Adonai l'orach yomim.
Okay, it's past Chatzot, so we're going to conclude with one final look at the Tehillim instead of the Kel Mole. I do want to mention that the interment is taking place in Montefiore Cemetery. Line up out in front. The family asks the following people to serve as pallbearers. They'll have to go outside before everybody else to escort the Aron into the hearse. Nathan Diamond, Judah Diamond, Jay Koffsky, Kobe Diamond, Amite Diamond, Rami Diamond, Ezra Diamond, Josh Diamond, and Tani Diamond. If everybody can please rise and call upon Rabbi Kamenetsky, the Rosh Hashiva, Mal, the boys' principal, DRS, to recite the final commitment.
Talmud David, Shemini and Hamshi Fasisiva. Marat Ladonai, Adonai Ata, Tovasi, Baal Olecha. V'kedoshim Asher Ba'aretz Hema, Va'adirei Kol Chefsivam. Ribu Atzvosam, Acher Maharu. Balasich Niskehem Midam, Ubalasas Shemosam, Al Sifasai. Adonai Minas Chelki V'Kosi, Ata Tomich Borali. Tavolim Naflu Liban Imim, Af Nachalas Shafra Olai. Avarech es Adonai Asher Yatzani, Af Leilos Yisrun Yosai. Shivisi Adonai Lenegdi Samid, Imimini Balemot. Ochein Samach Livi Vayogel Kivodi, Af Bisari Shkol Laveta. Lo sazov nashi lishol, lo sitein chasidcha l'ros shachas. Tovieni orach chayim, sovas machos es panecha, leimos bimincha netzach.
You have Paul Barris. The orange outside. Yeah, please let the family exit first.